It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hello there, guys. Quick update today. No tattoo progress today. Rick pulled a Rick, and I'll get all into that here in a minute. Supposed to be doing a layout on a new piece with Rick today on my left thigh. I actually, truth be told, when we planned to do the new piece on my left thigh, I was kind of like not dreading it, but I've had a lot of work on my legs in the last little while, and I wasn't sure where my right leg would be at this week, as I just got the big Mind Flayer piece done by another artist, Alex, here at the shop, and I have to say it's healing up beautifully. Not really that surprised, but you know, your legs are a little bit different than your arms. I wouldn't have been, say, looking to do a whole shitload of saturation on both of my legs in back-to-back sessions, as your legs can swell and be a little sore to walk on, where I find that your arms are, yeah, you use them for things, but you're not standing on them, you're not walking around on them. The gravity just doesn't affect your arms the same way, or say something on your torso the same way as it would your legs, right? So even when we did my blackouts on my legs, we did them in fairly like decent chunks, but it was at a good pace, and we did it weekly. We're blacking out both of my legs chunk by chunk, alternating. So say we would do a chunk of my right leg, then the next week a chunk of my left leg, and it made it so that the following week the area we were working on wasn't that traumatized, and was mostly done healing, and so there was always breathing room for swelling and things like this, and it never became too much at any point. It was very manageable that way. I know a lot of people liked this idea of going and getting this like super large section of their arm or something tattooed, and or their leg in this case, and sometimes that just makes for a worse experience healing and then more touch-ups later. My legs were only blacked out 1.5 times, not even a full second pass. It was kind of like a skim. Rick did and does really solid black work, and all of my other black work at that point had been done by Lee. When Lee left the shop, the owner of the Rocky Mountain Tattoo chain, I carried on my black work concept with Rick. Turned out that Rick's black was blacker than Lee's, but not as smooth, so then we ended up doing my arms again after that as well. So I don't even know how many times we blacked out my arms entirely. Being that they were full color, it did take a lot of work. It was way more than would be typical for black work. Like most people, you're good to go with a competent black worker with 1 to 2 passes, even if you're covering, say, old black and gray or old color, or even fairly new black and gray can be covered fairly quickly. But my arms were incredibly densely colored, and there was some scar tissue from even my first sleeves had some reworks in them, and some of the original tattoos were done by not the best artists. They found a way in the end. I ended up pulling both of those sleeves together in a way that they looked fairly okay, but neither one of them were perfect by any means, and the blackout was technically superior to both of my first sleeves, and it's not even close. There were some cool pieces on both arms, but they were a hodgepodge and kind of built together over the years, because believe it or not, at one point I didn't actually even expect to have full sleeves, and truth be told, I had full back piece and full torso of work before I had full sleeves. And I even had neck tattoos before I had full sleeves, let alone hand tattoos. I just thought as a cook I would be fucking up my arms and hands all the time, so why bother with getting nice tattoos all over my arms? I'll start with my legs, torso, back, things like that, right? And because I already had a shitload of facial piercings for many years, it wasn't the same jump for me to do neck tattoos. For people wondering, oh, well, you had neck tattoos before you had sleeves. That seems wrong. No, I had face tattoos even before I had full sleeves. I had 2 little stars, which I've explained the backstory to many times, and I'll touch on that again here in this video. But for me, it wasn't a problem. I had tattoos on my arms, obviously. They just weren't fully sleeved. But because I had, at one point, like 40 piercings in my face, to have face tattoos, neck tattoos, it's no one even batted an eye. Whereas maybe someone who didn't have that pre-experience would be suspect, But in my case, it made sense, and literally even my boss at the time was like, "Oh, it looks like you should have had those all along." So there's always going to be exceptions to, and these are never hard rules, and I don't know if they even are rules anymore. Most people just do whatever the fuck they want. But back at that time, face tattoos weren't so common, and I've had my face tattoos now for 15 years, and they've changed. Ironically, people still ask me if I'm ever going to tattoo my face, and the idea is like, oh, you just framed it, but like, ironically, I have over 100 hours on my face, which is far more time than most people who even have full face tattoos will do. So with this all said, it links directly into today's appointment. I was supposed to get tattooed by Rick, and we were supposed to lay out a new project. And I had mixed feelings about it. It was kind of exciting to be working on something new with him. At the same time, I understand what goes into a new project with Rick. It's a long day, layout day. And today, he wasn't at the shop when I got here. We usually do 10:30 on Monday, and we don't get rolling usually until around 12:30 or 1. There's a whole lot of fuck around built into a session with Rick. And that's just been the way it is. And he doesn't even mean any harm with it. He doesn't take it for granted either. That's just the way he is. He's a bit slow start, and there's lots of breaks, and very old school. And he's always been that way. This isn't a problem of him getting older. That's just built into the fucking cake on a ground floor level. And so, on a layout day, he still draws and by hand, and he stencils everything without the stencil maker, like the stencil printer. Like everyone else here at the shop uses a stencil printer. He hand bombs everything still. And so layout day, you typically don't even get started the tattoo until you've been here for 4 or 5 hours. So I brought everything. I wore shorts today because we're tattooing my leg, and I want easy access to that. I brought my Steam Deck. I just finished Clair Obscur. I talked about that recently. I think it's one of the greatest games ever made, let alone, and that's not just the hype. Like, I've played tons and tons of video games. I love video games. I don't talk a lot about it, but I honestly don't get a lot of time to play them anymore. But it was an amazing game, and I did both endings and whatever. I brought my my adapter cord because I figured we'd be here a while. I got cozy, brought my lunch, brought a couple snacks, protein shakes, planned for the long haul. And normally he'll text me in the morning and say, oh, okay, well, if I'm going to run in late. But I had to come into the shop anyway because Terry had an appointment that he was finishing up. And we didn't have time through the week for it. And he got rescheduled or whatever the fuck it was. I had to be here anyway, long story short. So I'm sitting up here about an hour. I get the text from Rick. Can we do tomorrow? I've got plans with Sarah tomorrow, my wife. We usually have plans Tuesdays. And so I'm like, no, I'm not interested in doing tomorrow. I could have done it. Realistically, I could have. But I've already got to be here anyway. So I'm like, no, there's no fucking way I'm coming back on Tuesday for this. And he meant well, and it's fine, but just not that into it. And then he says, oh, okay, well, I'll come down there. I'll get ready. And how long's Terry going to be there? Terry's really quick. He's usually done by noon, even if he's working on a big black and gray piece. And I just had no interest in starting a layout day late. Probably means I'm going to be here till 8 o'clock or something crazy like that and get like an outline of a thing. And I just genuinely didn't want to do it. Like, people think I'm addicted to being tattooed, and and you could say I am, but I'm getting to a place with it where, like, I don't really want to do that shit all the time anymore. And every session with Rick is like that to some degree. And this is why I've fallen out with him in the past before. Lee had to talk me into working with him again because, ironically, and I told you it would come up, but The reason why I stopped seeing him to begin with is because he had told me after we finished my back piece and chest piece and all these things that he would do the stars that I had on my face originally, and I've told this story at length. He ended up forgetting that he said that, or denying that he said that, and saying that he would never tattoo a face. This is a long, long time ago, and he's worked on my face since then, but basically just denied that that ever happened, and told me it was a terrible idea and turned me away. And so that was kind of the line for me after I'd already been, fucked around a lot by him in the past. Show up to his shop, doors not open, late all the time. Sometimes you get a good session, sometimes you all kinds of problems, right? And the hourly never made sense at that point. It does these days because he's in a lot better headspace than he is these days, or than he was then. But there were a lot of issues back with him back from 2005 to 2010 when I was seeing him then. And Rick and I didn't work together until 2017 or 2018, when Lee brought him into this shop and kind of rehabilitated him and convinced me that Rick had changed. And to his credit, he has. He's a lot better than he used to be. But some of those old school aspects are still there. And, I actually had to have this conversation with him recently about clients are just expecting more these days than that. And to some degree I am too. And I can sit down with Alex or even my wife, who's a brand new apprentice. Terry was a brand new apprentice when I started working with them. Everyone in here has been able to do this on me. And they've been able to do it at a decent level too. And so I will never ever not be grateful for the adventure that Rick and I took on with this back in late 2019, early 2020, starting all this color on black stuff. He was the OG, and I will always appreciate that, but I don't know how much more of it I want to do. And I'm so heavily conflicted and torn on it because he is at a time when I'm finishing up with him and have been planning to be finished with this sleeve for some time, coming up with new project ideas and stuff for me. And I appreciate that he wants to continue, but my body only has so much space left as it is, and I'm designating some of that to my wife when she gets a little further along. And I'm enjoying working with some of these younger artists, and I've worked with Rick for thousands of hours. No joke, thousands of hours. And I put up with so much over the years, and honest to God, it's more like I see him more like a brother than even a friend at this point. And we have so many old stories, and we know so many similar people, and sometimes it feels like I'm in bed with this man, and it's so hard to draw the line even when he does stuff like this. And I've been so close to the edge even with this sleeve, and I still am not happy with where we are on it. There's things that make me wonder if he's capable of finishing this at times, all of the green. And I expected a poor result on the green. I said that because there's so much in here. But all of the green in that claw is gone this week. And I have a feeling that even Sarah, my wife, who's only been doing this for a year and a few months, could probably be packing that easier. And when we're at 96 sessions on this, and I do appreciate what has been done, but there's still a lot to do. Right? It looks like parts of it have a blur filter on it. I am in no form of denial. My hand still needs so much work. He touched some of it last session, and it didn't go in the way that it should have. And when I look at my other hand that's been done by Terry and hasn't had any work in over a year, it's been over a year since we've done any of this, and it still looks better than all of this except the moon. And the moon hasn't been touched in 3 years, by the way. More than 3 years. It's been closer to 4. But every other part of it needs to be done again. Even the red it's not in there as well as it is on the wrist and forearm. And so, I come to this point of how much farther do I let this thing go with him? And I'm losing interest in it. And I want it to be. Some parts of it are where they need to be. Some parts of it aren't. And when days like today happen, and we're trying to start something new, and we're not even done with the sleeve yet, and I'm not done with it, I want to finish it up. Why start something new if we can't get the first thing done? right? And this is part of why I had Terry finish the chess piece to the degree that it is now, because we did the whole fucking thing again in one session, right? And it was way better after that. And it was not this thing of like Rick got tired of working on it or didn't see the path ahead anymore. And I feel like to some degree the work that we're doing together is just more of a hangout than it is for the tattoo. And while I see the potential that this sleeve could be way better than the rose sleeve, and I care way more about this sleeve than the rose sleeve, I have more investment in it, say sunk cost, the 96 sessions that have been put into it, and the overall inspiration for it they're much more akin to my interests. I want it to be the showpiece that the rose sleeve is, and maybe it never can be because of the subject matter. And yes, it is certainly detailed, but some of these things, they don't need to be as complicated as they are, and some of it could be simplified for the better. And I think that we're just kind of spinning our tires sometimes, and I touched on this about 10 sessions ago, needing to make a change of direction midway, and we did that, and some things came up, and some things aren't working, and I have a lot of thinking to do about the future of this project, and whether or not I'm actually doing this because I want the tattoo from him, or if it's just about the friendship and not being able to, draw the line on it. I feel like it's more personal than it is business, and usually I have an easier time with these things, but because the history is so much, it's very hard to draw that line. And I always keep it 100% with you guys. I don't look to save face on here, and I'm an open book. I've been talking about this with him. I've been talking about this with other artists here, and I don't have a hard time being honest about where things are. And I think that the sleeve needs so much work still, and I don't know if he and I can get there. And that's going to be a hard conversation, but I think it's going to be one that has to be had. The only thing that I'm still wondering about is, do I go the easy road and the surefire bet with Terry? I know that Terry could hammer this out and put it to where I want it to be the same way he did with the chess piece in just a few sessions. Or I could go with Alex, or I could even try with my wife. She could even maybe give it a shot. I think that it's close enough to where I want it to be, but still so far away. And some people will think I'm an asshole for this, but man, choices just need to be made sometimes, and as cruel as it may seem, I feel like it's been a little bit of charity lately to keep this going for as long as it has. And I don't know that any amount of time can ever have him deliver this sleeve the way that I want it to be. And that may sound ungrateful. I don't know. It just is what it is. There's things I like, obviously. I think most of this is good, and the face is starting to get where I want. I think the stretch on the inner arm is okay, but there's still so much work to do, and so much of it looks quite old. Like Terry said, parts of it look like they have a blur filter on them. And I don't want that to be the case, because, everything else I've got on me, I've got up to a level where I'm happy with for the most part, even on very few sessions. Whereas I still feel I have so much to do on this arm, and that shouldn't be the case at close to 100 sessions. And you guys would never want to know how much money I've spent on that sleeve. Like, it's a lot. It's not a minor amount. So, and it's far more than I've spent on the rose sleeve, and we finished this in a variety of ways over and over again. So, with that said, I'll probably have an answer about what I'm going to do with that the next video I make. I just felt like this video had to happen, and so I got a lot to say about it today, especially given the circumstances of why I'm here at the shop today. The next session I have, Terry and I are going to be in the center here, this rose, and then after that, we're going to be doing the forehead again. I think I'm going to do a total redo of that. Maybe leave the red for another day, but at least reline it and fill that turquoise again. See if I can get it a little bit more defined. It's a little bit blurrier than I want right now, but we'll get to that, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.